Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up in our news tonight, a man is dead after multiple shots are fired by police at Moonshine Drive. Ready, set, sail. The first set of passengers of Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas from Nassau get ready to board. And police need your help solving the country's latest murder after a man and woman were shot in a bar on Friday night. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Georgie O'Bain. Topping news tonight. Shots rang out on Moonshine Drive this afternoon as police chased a suspect through a residential area. In videos captured by bystanders, 3 officers could be seen standing atop a roof, firing down on a suspect. Multiple shots were fired before officers jumped down from the roof. Police say a man succumbed to his injuries at the scene.
So shortly before 3 p.m. this afternoon, police responded to the community of Sunshine Park, where we received information that a woman, an elderly lady, was in the farmers market at Blue Hill Road South when she was approached by a man who assaulted her and then left the area. Our information is that a group of persons from the community followed this man, approached him. He in turn, being armed with a shotgun, shot one of them and then ran into an abandoned building which is just behind me.
Officers entered the premises in search of the man, and shortly after there was an exchange of gunshots.
Officers responded to this location and entered the property where an exchange of gunfire was exchanged between the man and the officers, resulting in that man being fatally wounded. We know that the young person who was shot was also transported to the hospital. He is listed in stable condition at this time. None of the officers were injured during this incident, and we can tell you that the elderly lady received just minor injuries.
Police are not releasing the identity of the deceased until the next of kin is notified. This as officers say several weapons were found in the abandoned building.
We have recovered already 3 illegal weapons from this location. Our Chief Magistrate, Joy-Ann Pratt Ferguson, who is acting in the capacity of the coroner, has visited this scene and has been updated and will now continue investigations into this matter.
And a man is dead and a female is in hospital receiving treatment for gunshot wounds after a lone gunman entered an establishment on Martin Street off Blue Hill Road shortly after 9 on Friday. Press liaison Audley Peters gave these brief details.
Sometime around or after 9 p.m. tonight, police were alerted to a shooting incident that occurred here on Martin Street and Blue Hill Road. Officers responded, and on their arrival, they met the body of a male in a business establishment with apparent gunshot wounds to the body. Preliminary information is that a lone gunman entered the establishment and fired shots at the patrons on the inside, injuring 2 persons. Emergency medical service visited the scene and pronounced the male lifeless, and the female was transported to the hospital where her condition is not known at this time.
According to Peters, the victims are believed to be employees of the bar.
At the moment, we're not aware of the age of the victim, but he appears to be in his late 30s, early 40s. It's promising. We have some technology that is going to aid us, and we've canvassed the area, and the information we would have received as far as leading us into a certain direction, and I believe in due course the matter will be brought to a closure depending on where our investigation leads us.
Well, downtown Nassau was bustling with tourists this afternoon as the inaugural homeporting of the Adventure of the Seas cruise ship got set to welcome its first passengers in the port of Nassau. It was nothing short of a celebration this afternoon in Pompey Square as government officials and officials of RCL celebrated the homeporting inauguration of Adventure of the Seas. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says the home porting is a welcomed venture as the country looks to put the COVID-19 pandemic behind it.
This includes visit to Grand Bahama and Perfect Day at Coco Key, Royal Caribbean's private Bahamas destination that employs a good number of Bahamians. This means that even more Bahamians across our islands can get back to work as our tourism sector continues its recovery.
And the Prime Minister says there is more to come.
Royal Caribbean's plans for a beach break destination on Paradise Island, namely Royal Beach Club, includes a $50 million investment that will generate an extra $26 million per year in visitor spending. The company's outlook for its investments in the Bahamas is quite ambitious.
According to RCL CEO Mike Mora, the cruise port is expected to be complete in November. By then, he expects visitor arrival to double.
We are well on our way to completing our almost $300 million cruise port project. By this November, we would have finished our marine works, which will add an Oasis-class berth and extend which we've historically called Berth 16 to an Oasis as well. So what does that mean to us as Bahamians? What it means is that pre-COVID, on any given day with maximum passenger capacity, we would hit numbers of about 20,000 visitors disembarking those ships and going into the taxis, the tour buses, the retail, the restaurants, the hair braiders, and everything else. By November of this year, we will have the capacity, the daily capacity of over 33,000 visitors.
Visitors will now be able to fly into New Providence and board cruise ships that are a part of the Royal Caribbean International Cruise Line. The first step for visitors was the British Colonial Hilton for COVID testing. Our news will take you inside. Also to come on our news, what you need to know about hurricane shelters in case of a storm, plus a 30-year career in frontline labor is coming to an end. We'll tell you who when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
If a major hurricane is expected to impact the Bahamas, hurricane shelters will be activated. Knowing the nearest shelter to your home and how to get there is critical, but even more important is knowing when to go. Here's our Christina Dragovich.
When the shelter lists are approved and published, you will know exactly what shelters are near you. You will know exactly what times those shelters will be activated, because all of that information would be provided through the local news and television stations. So tune into those stations, please. Don't go to the US. They will give you information, but your local stations will give you information specific to your areas.
Lisa Boleg is the Disaster Management Training Coordinator in the Department of Social Services. She helps to coordinate shelter inspections and liaises with the National Emergency Management Agency during emergencies. As climate change is causing stronger, more frequent hurricanes, more residents across the Bahamas may be required to evacuate their homes as a storm approaches.
If you are asked to evacuate, please do so. And I say that because if you find yourself in a situation where you decide to remain at home and the storm is much worse than better, you're going to put all of our rescue teams at risk, coming to look for you, coming to save you, when you could have prevented the situation by simply going into a safe, secured, approved shelter.
Some Bahamians have never had to seek shelter elsewhere, but Boleg says it's nothing to be concerned about.
If you don't have anything when you're going into the shelter, don't be overly concerned about that, because the Department of Social Services would have prepared shelter kits, relief supplies, and PPEs so that when you get there, if you don't have, we will make certain that you're taken care of.
But what about public health protocols and social distancing in shelters during the pandemic? NEMA personnel say that is taken care of also.
If you're in a shelter, what is it that you're going to do? How are you going to maintain those distances? The extra things that you need to have on guard in terms of your sanitizing.
The next episode of The Breakdown examines the question, are we ready for the next big one? The Breakdown airs on Monday following the evening news only on RTV. Reporting for our news, I'm Christina Dragovich.
And a week following Sir Randall Folk's Labor Day, President of the National Congress of Trade Unions, Bernard Evans, announcing that he will be stepping away from frontline union work. It all started at Patelco's Papal Track location when Evans became the employee spokesman during regular staff meetings. His manager recommended that he run for the union shop steward position, and he won. He then climbed the ranks from trustee to executive vice president. Though he ran for president but lost to Robert Farquharson, the journey didn't stop there.
3 years later, I offered myself again because I had this bug about wanting to stand up for people and all that stuff, and saw some injustices going on. Felt like it wasn't being addressed. Having worked in the movement around the table with contracts negotiations and stuff like that, and so I offered myself one last time to say, let me try it again. And if I was not successful, this is what God don't want for me. And so I was successful, my second bid, and 3 consecutive terms later, I was re-elected to the post of president of the BCPOU.
30 years later, he's the president of the umbrella union, the National Congress of Trade Unions. Over his 30-year career in the trade union movement, Evans counts each victory on behalf of workers as his greatest achievement. But a great sense of accomplishment came during his first trip to the International Labor Organization in Geneva, Switzerland.
They would have 3 disciplines, and I chose occupational health and safety. And then the Caribbean would meet. The English-speaking Caribbean would meet to discuss our strategies, because we would vote as a bloc. And I was surprised, again, asking questions. In the plenary, I was chosen as the Caribbean lead for occupational health and safety. And so to see my name etched in the decisions and the advancement for labor, occupational health and safety for workers around the world, I would say personally that was my greatest achievement.
Now, Evans says it's time to step away from union leadership to allow newer faces to step onto the front line.
I chose not to offer myself in 2018. I figured it was time for me now to move on to another chapter. Not to move away from union per se, but to really to allow young, fresh blood to come up as the landscape of work began to change and began evolving, and different tactics needed to be addressed. And walking through BTC at the time and recognizing so many new faces, and because I was part of the new, but more part of the old.
Evans also discussed the development of the National Tripartite Council.
We have been striving for a tripartite kind of discussion, as displayed when we go to the ILO, where you will have government representative, employer representatives, and worker representative. That kind of respect, I've seen it developed during my time as we espouse to that kind of dialogue to happen here in the Bahamas. And we were fortunate, I think, at least a little over maybe 6-7 years ago, the National Tripartite Council was formed.
When our news comes back from the break, a look inside Dolphin Key and the staff that take care of some pretty cool animals. And a magistrate is putting pen to paper. We have the details on this budding author when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
You're watching our news. Welcome back. Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines donating 21 trailer loads of meat and produce to the Bahamas Feeding Network worth $1.5 million. In a tour of their new staging area, Feeding Network founder Philip Smith thanked RCL for the donation. Smith says it will help to make over 9 million meals and add more than 12,000 individuals back to their list for food assistance.
Royal Caribbean had totally cut off its operation for the last 15 months, yet they continued their contribution. So they continue giving us a cash donation of $400,000 every year, and then they now giving us this $1.5 million in meats, and they've given us a cruise as well. So they're amazing, and we want to say thank you so very much.
Cisco currently stores 10 containers and has donated $20,000 in goods weekly. SuperValue installed a new transformer to add more trailer units for the nonprofit to use. President of SuperValue, Deborah Simonet, says the need for food assistance remains great, and she urged other companies to join in the fight against hunger.
We'd like you to support the Bahamas Feeding Network. It is a great organization, and it's doing great things. And please remember, individuals, you can also contribute. Our registers are still taking your contributions. When you go to buy your groceries, please give a donation.
And for Royal Caribbean, we just are so incredibly appreciative just for the opportunity to be able to help and to be a part of this. This is, the Feeding Network is a beautiful organization. I feel like our friendship, Philip, deepens all the time.
Anne McGregor has been on food assistance since the start of the pandemic. She says it warmed her heart when she came in as a stranger and they treated her like family.
To some people, it's just a package, but you guys don't really know what it truly means to have people, someone there care for you enough to want to assist in this way. And we thank you so much. And I'm not just speaking for me. I'm speaking for all the persons out there that receive these packages, because there are many nights children go hungry.
As Atlantis continues to celebrate World Oceans Day all month, our Kyle Joaquin takes us behind the scenes to give us a look at what it takes to care for those friendly sea creatures.
While it's home to some of our favorite animals like dolphins and sea lions, Dolphin Key at Atlantis has a lot going on behind the scenes. Take, for instance, there's a whole medical laboratory.
This is where we can run any number of samples to provide top-class care for the dolphins and sea lions here. And we also, we work with the aquarium team as well to provide top care for all the animals that live here at Atlantis. So we have all of our blood machines and all that stuff over there, where we can run any number of blood samples and get any number of results back. So if an animal is just not eating, not showing up right, we can get a quick blood sample and see if there's something going on. That way we have a fully stocked pharmacy and we can get medication to them probably within an hour.
There are 35 dolphins at Dolphin Key with a number of other animals. Atlantis is home to turtles, sharks, stingrays, to name a few. But there are times when an animal may need urgent care, especially those that are rescued.
So this is our surgical room, and just in an effort to be able to provide top-class care for all the animals here, we're able to do any number of medical procedures that we need, where we need them to be indoors, we need the area to be temperature controlled, or we have to use machinery that we cannot afford to take out by the water. So if we need to do any endoscopies or that kind of stuff, we're able to bring them in here, and we're able to perform all of those things with the vet.
And this would be dolphins or sea lions, anyway?
Dolphins, sea lions, we've done stuff with turtles.
The daily operations over at Dolphin Key requires all hands on deck, from training to simply getting the meals together.
So this is our fish kitchen, and just like the name says, this is where all of the magic starts. So this is where we do all of the diets for the dolphins and the sea lions. And we have a team that comes in at 5 every morning and prepares over 1,500 pounds of fish to make sure all of the dolphins and sea lions are fed. So we can take a look inside our fridges here. This here is the fish that will be used for tomorrow. It's already starting its thaw process. And the team for tomorrow will come and pull this out, and they will use this to make the diets for everybody. And over here, we have everybody's coolers with their food and everything already packaged out for today.
At the end of the day, Marine Mammal Operations Director Linda Hamilton says it's all about keeping the animals healthy and happy. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, 4 books down and many more to go, according to a local magistrate. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
You're watching our news. Welcome back. A local magistrate is expanding his intellectual territory, and with 4 books already completed, he's exploring what's next for him. Magistrate Darren Sroll Davis isn't quite hanging up his magistrate's hat just yet. Instead, he's putting pen to paper. Roll Davis says it all started with a mystery novel inspired by a case he heard in court.
The first book is Jude and the Joke, and it's a true story, and it's in relation to a mystery novel. And what I garnered from the true story is that there are many lessons that could be learned from it being told. As a result of that, I decided that it would be a grand opportunity to put it in a form of a book.
But it isn't all courtroom drama. His second book required him to travel the world and developed into a guide to what women want and the value of relationships.
Book number 2 really is a book called What the Other Woman Thinks. It's a book about women, and it is written for men to read. It is to allow men to have a clear understanding as to what it is that women are interested in. You'll find that, having traveled the world, I've interviewed more than 300 women in every part of the world, and it is one of the books that gives men and women a clear understanding as to human nature.
So, of course, book number 3 reveals the secret of what men are truly looking for in a woman.
It's called Men Exposed. This book is about men, but it's written for men, but a woman must read it. Because you'll find that it's those secrets that men have hidden from women all this time. What it means to be a good husband, what it means, why is it that he is not committing to you? And it answers those questions.
Roll Davis's 4th book takes him back to his roots, the law, the social and economic effects on the Bahamas 2000 to 2020. He says the book paints a picture of the role the Bahamas plays in the world and how laws are affecting individuals.
It is a book involving 3 disciplines to which I am privileged to have had those backgrounds, which is history, the law, and economics. And so what I've done is marry the 3 disciplines to allow the average user to understand that when you hear that the government has implemented a law, it's not something to be ignored. It is something that you ought to pay attention to, because it either affects your pocketbook economically, or it affects the way in which you socialize.
Books are available at Chapter 1 Bookstore and Amazon.com. Well, thank you for joining us for our news. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Georgia Bain, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a safe evening, Bahamas. Your feature movie, Unbreakable, starts right now.